Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. So we've got a twofer for firsts with this one. We've got our first ever Patreon-sponsored holiday episode, and no, Cho Dengeki Striker does not count, I just had no other place to put that one. Also, it's a non-Christmas holiday episode. I know, that should have happened a long time ago, especially because there's plenty of my audience that does not celebrate Christmas. Chalk it up to a few things. First, my own laziness in not wanting to research non-Christmas holidays so I don't screw them up. Secondly, the prevalence of Christmas in comics in general versus any other holidays in December, meaning there are slimmer pickings when it comes to non-Christmas holiday comics. And thirdly, being a guy who celebrates Christmas, I like to share my joy in it with the rest of you. And thus I do apologize to my viewers who don't celebrate Christmas and have yet one more place where they can't escape the ubiquity of the season. It's not intentional malice or anything. But fortunately, in the spirit of togetherness and peace and harmony, we can all get behind one thing to celebrate: Batman. Batman, the Brave and the Bold was a lighthearted animated series made from 2008 to 2011, consisting mostly of standalone stories where Batman would team up with various heroes and characters of the DC universe. Like with most other DC animated series, there was a comic tie-in meant for kids, which brings us to today's outing. Although weirdly enough, this one had two different volumes for its printing, with the second called The All-New Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Not sure why they felt that was necessary, since technically every new issue is all new, while the previous one is now the all old. So let's dig into the all-new Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 14, and our Hanukkah story, Small Miracles.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where Yuletide candles burn. Linkara's gonna give you all a present you've not earned. Not Mensch, you're not the brightest. Frank Miller, you're off the nice list. If you're a comic writer who misuses a license, your gift will be returned. Digging through the shelves for the kind of comic books that would turn Santa's elves into common crooks. He reads them and he weeps while down the chimney creeps. Bill Jammers with a Marvel trade to watch him when he sleeps. Linkara, he built a snowman, now it has a hole. Linkara, 8 maids a milking and a young blood troll. Linkara, only one Dickens homage away from going chestnuts. Linkara, this Christmas comic sucks.
My scans are coming from a trade, and I have no physical copy to compare it to, so no looking at the cover. We open with this villain, Dr. Spectro, and his face staring right at us.
It seems like every year I have to save Christmas. The machinations of rock and roll infect even this holiday. I will defeat you, Jingle Bell Rock!
Tremble in fear, Gotham City! Your worst nightmare has arrived!
You mean that dream where I'm making out with the Joker, but his head is on Selena Kyle's body?
Our 2-page spread title page reveals that Batman is teaming up with the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle against not only Dr. Spectro, but 2 other villains, Crazy Quilt and Rainbow Rider.
You know, I think the commercialization of LGBT pride might be an issue if supervillains are getting in on it.
Spectro demands they surrender, or they'll never see another white Christmas.
Really?
That's your master plan? Coloring the snow? Exactly! And no one can stop us! And Batman tosses a single batarang around that knocks them all out. Oh no! Someone who can stop us!
And so Christmas is saved once again. Our surroundings must be a desolate white. There's no room for anything colorful at Christmas. Of course, not everyone celebrates Christmas. For example, I've learned that Decepticons don't do so. I'm hiring a kid to take care of that, though.
At a pawn shop called Rags and Tatters, a rabbi is trying to sell an antique watch so he can get money for repairs to his synagogue. But the owner refuses to take something so personal and precious, offering instead to just give him some more money outright, and he can pay him back when he's able to. "You're a good boy, Rory. Just like your father Jerry, rest his soul, always helping the neighborhood." Admittedly, it's by a protection racket, but still. He spots a menorah and says that he should really light it since Hanukkah is coming up, but Rory says he's not really religious. Before they can really continue on the discussion, they hear someone yelling for help outside. The rabbi tells Rory to call 911, but Rory goes in back to be that help, revealing himself to be the superhero Ragman. Ragman's a pretty spiffy concept, a mystical hero whose suit is made up of evil souls that form the rags of his outfit. The souls, in turn, work for him, and thus can earn redemption through enough good deeds when working with him. Because I guess redemption is like an experience bar or something. What happened outside is that a mugger is stealing a homeless woman's shopping cart full of bottles and trash.
"Who's gonna help you in this neighborhood?" "Ha! My brilliant plan of stealing this lady's recycling is brilliant! Soon, I'll be a villain on par with Dr. Spectro, Crazy Quilt, and Rainbow Rider!"
Ragman appears and knocks the guy flat. The woman is thankful, since there's at least $10 worth of items in the cart. Batman shows up and congratulates him on stopping the criminal. However, Ragman is clearly upset about something.
"Well, hang in there. I know it isn't always easy fighting for justice."
Justice? Is that what you call it?
"Well, yeah, and together we could be justice."
Ragman points out that Batman doesn't usually come to this part of Gotham, a very poor side of it, where, sure, he can recover the old lady's stuff that she scrounged to get, but she still had to scrounge through garbage just to get enough cash for dinner. He doesn't really see any of this as justice.
Funny, I've had similar conversations with super powerful heroes who fight planet-level threats, but I'm usually the one on Ragman's side of the table. I never realized how whiny that is. Is that what I sound like?
I'm just messing around, of course. Dude's got a point. He tells a bit of his own life story, how his father owned the junk store originally and passed it on to him along with the mystic rag costume he now wears. Furthermore, Ragman disparages about how it feels so pointless to be a superhero when what people really need is rent money and a good meal. What's worse, the MacGuffin Group is buying up a bunch of property to build luxury apartments that nobody around here can afford.
So, just to add to my enemies list, it's rock and roll, One Face, Poodles, Spawn, and now gentrification.
When the only people who can afford to live here are millionaires like Bruce Wayne, where's everyone else supposed to live?
Look, people who are as handsome and beloved and sexy as Bruce Wayne need luxury apartments. What do you expect them to do? Not stay in the middle of the city when they have a palatial mansion?
The discussion is tabled when they overhear gunshots coming from the synagogue. The rabbi is getting held back while another dude shoots out some windows in the place, telling him he should really leave the neighborhood. The gunner proclaims that this neighborhood belongs to them, but the other residents have an objection, along with Batman and Ragman. This guy, being a dumbass, decides to just open fire on the crowd of people. Fortunately, Ragman's costume can absorb bullets, so he shields the civilians while Batman goes in to sock the goon holding the rabbi.
Well, at least this time, I left one for my partner to knock out. I'll have to mention it to Blue Beetle when I see him. Sucks to be you, Jaime. You're the only person I team up with who doesn't get to punch people.
The rabbi says he doesn't know what this was all about, since there's nothing valuable in the place to steal. Ragman thinks this whole thing is senseless, and wonders why the rabbi even bothers staying.
What kind of question is that? I stay because people need places like this. Where else will you go to have goons shoot out windows? I provide a valuable service.
The rabbi, however, suspects that he's really asking about himself, wondering why he's sticking around.
Tell me, do you know the story of Hanukkah?
Yeah, but I prefer the movie. And so the rabbi recounts the story of Hanukkah. On the off chance you're not familiar with it, the story is about how, when the Greek army invaded Israel 2,000 years ago, the Jewish people fought back and were able to fend them off. But the temple's menorah, which was meant to stay lit all the time as a symbol of faith, only had enough oil to burn for one more day. It would take another 8 days to procure more oil, and by a miracle, somehow the oil lasted for 8 days. Ragman balks at the story. Yeah, well, that's a great story, Rabbi, but it was a long time ago. Now, if the miracle had happened, like, last Thursday, that'd be different. Ragman says that there aren't any miracles around them, but the rabbi counters that all these people, like him, who have come to help, are miracles. Ragman doesn't believe himself to be a miracle, especially not when guys like Superman are flying around and are much bigger heroes. Who needs Superman? I mean, a lot of people. You're missing the point of the Hanukkah miracle. God could have made the jar of oil burn forever, not just 8 days, or he could have helped the Jews find hundreds of jars, not just one. What I'm trying to say is that God is really stingy. No, of course, it's a different, better lesson. Instead, he provided just enough. Why? To teach us that even though nobody gets everything they want, God gives us what we need. And as such, I'm just saying, I really need a new window! Batman, having searched the goons, finds out the gunner's cell phone had received over a dozen phone calls from MacGuffin Real Estate Group. Everyone puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that MacGuffin hired criminals to rough up the people in the neighborhood to encourage them to take a deal and leave. Ugh, so unrealistic. We all know what they'd actually do is have their lawyers call some bullcrap excuse to make the government force these people out, usually with a bribe to some elected officials. Ragman wants to go on the warpath right to their headquarters, but Batman says he'll take care of it.
And so I got to work. Once I knew what to look for, it wasn't hard to find the evidence I needed. Excuse me, Mr. Executive. Ever hear the story of Hanukkah? It involves 8 days worth of burning oil poured on greedy corporate executives. At least I think it does. I wasn't paying attention earlier.
What's more, he finds evidence that this isn't the first time Plot Device Industries has done such a thing, so they end up being arrested.
Still, that wasn't the greatest victory of the day. The old neighborhood had its hero back. Namely, me, Batman! I am the only hero that matters.
Later, the rabbi arrives at Rory's store to pay back the loan, much to Rory's surprise because of his lack of funds. It seems an anonymous donation came in, covering all the repairs to the synagogue needed, plus the Hanukkah celebrations. And as the rabbi happily exclaims while he walks off, in the end, we always get what we need. Rory, inspired by this, takes the menorah off the shelf.
Ragman may not be the strongest or flashiest hero in the universe, but the rabbi was right. That watch he was trying to pawn was worth money, and now it's all mine. Small miracles are important too. Miracles performed by me, the Bat God.
And so our comic ends with Rory lighting the menorah and saying a prayer.
And even though we don't always get everything we want, we get what we need.
Although unfortunately it turns out Batman needed to buy something at the junk store for Alfred, but it was now closed. This comic is great. It's a simple little story that's very effective in its message while also doing great character work with Ragman, particularly for a one-off issue and a tie-in comic to a TV series meant for children. It also uses religion and faith effectively while also being respectful of Jewish beliefs. It's not an action-heavy story either, which one would expect from something made for kids. It's just a character piece reminding people that miracles do happen, and it's always better to fight for good and what you believe in. It even touches on other social problems and how it can feel so pointless to deal with crime when there are such larger problems out there that seem insurmountable. Poverty, gentrification, corruption, etc. This is the kind of quality and message you want to have during this time of year. Hope, faith, charity, devotion, justice, and compassion for the people around you, and especially the less fortunate. Just a really good, engaging character piece, and definitely a good way to end out the more overtly holiday stuff this year for me. Next time, it may not be Christmas related, but December has become the season of Star Wars as well. And hopefully we can maintain an adequate level of goodwill towards each other, because we're looking at the comic adaptation of Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
That comic book
Geez, it was bad enough that this guy was hiring goons to drive out the locals for expensive condos, but I think the real crime here is that outfit. Purple plaid and a zany purple tie. Yeesh.
There. Sure glad I don't look stupid in this.
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.